All right, chapter 24. I guess previously on Empress Theresa, I remember she was talking about a bunch of Korean guys. There was like 10 of them, I think, or something like that. They were all crying and sobbing about something that's going on in their own home country. I think it had something to do with camps or whatever else. But basically, the bottom line is Korea's in trouble, and yeah, North Korea in particular, I'm pretty sure. And Teresa's got to do something about it. So, yep, this is only 10 pages. Let's get right into it. Chapter 24. The next morning's New York Times had an ominous headline: Theresa Hartley eyes North Korea. Veronica Stinson called me. Theresa. President Theresa. Veronica Stinson. Okay. Theresa. President Stinson. How are you? Okay, she's introducing herself. Okay. I didn't understand what was going on here. Yeah. Theresa? President Stinson. How are you? Fine. What's up? We need to talk. Will you come to the White House? Hold on. I put my hand on the receiver and asked Steve. What do you think? Call me paranoid. I don't like it. Tell her to send a general to Colonel Palin's office. Palin, I don't know. Palin. Miss Stinson, I'll meet a general in Colonel Palin's office at West Point tomorrow morning. That's as far as I go. I'll send General Walters. Who? The chairman of Chiefs of Staffs. Of Joint Chief of Staffs. Our top military man. That works. Goodbye. No dash this time. General Walters arrived at 9 a.m. Cadets couldn't fail to notice the presence of the top army man, and speculation had it he was there to see me about North Korea. We walked over to headquarters, confirming speculation. Garrison Commander Colonel Palin, playing host to this meeting, had a hard time maintaining his military poise. The general exchanged greetings with us, and we sat down to business. The general asked, "What are you planning for North Korea?" I'm going to liberate the people from their monstrous oppressors. I've developed a technique to get Hal to find things when I've programmed the descriptions to him. I'm going to get Hal to destroy every weapon in North Korea. Hal works at lightning speed, but even he can't search every square inch of a country without some kind of guidance. So I'll program him to pick out people at random and see if they're handling a weapon. That sounds very dangerous. Anyway, if they are, it's safe to assume there are other weapons nearby. Hal will search the area around that person until he finds no more weapons. Then he'll move on to the next person. This will take only seconds. Once all the weapons are destroyed, the South Korean army can move in without resistance and take over the country. You're a good person, Mrs. Hartley, and I wouldn't expect you to think of how bad people can be. As soon as you said, destroy all their weapons, I thought of the revolutions in Europe and other parts of the world. When the mobs take over their countries, they slaughter everyone perceived as oppressors. North Korea has 2 million people with government jobs. From the top leader to the lowest city worker, they'll all be killed. The atrocities will make Nazi concentration camps look like vacation resorts. Okay. I was stunned. I hadn't thought of that. I felt stupid and embarrassed at my incompetence. What do you suggest? I suggest you think about it carefully. You're still... Next page. You're still flush with helping the Israelis evacuate. I need to point out to you that the Israelis wanted to leave. You could sit in England and watch it happen from thousands of miles away. North Korea is a different situation. They will resist any efforts to change things. You can't accomplish anything from thousands of miles away. And there it was. Despite my awesome power, I could do nothing without the North Koreans' cooperation. Give me a minute to think. I stared at the floor and thought. Walters didn't believe I could get around these problems. When it came to human behavior, it is what it is, and it can't be changed. I could not eliminate the thirst for vengeance, nor could I get the North Koreans to change without violence, which I would not use. It was another incredibly complex problem. This one wasn't just like raising an island or throwing water into space. I had to get millions of people to dump ideas that had been brainwashed into their heads since birth. How could I do that? Did the general have an idea? He probably had 10 of them, but he wasn't telling me. He wanted me to come up with an idea myself, so I'd have the confidence to do it. After a minute and a half, I looked up at the general. Plan B. I'll destroy all their weapons in a 50-mile wide band across the country, including their capital city, to show them what I can do. Then I'll fly in and take over the government myself. Okay. They'll kill you. Not after I tell them I programmed Hal to destroy all the weapons in the country in 8 days. And he can't be stopped, even by me, unless I fly back to South Korea once a week. You would go in there alone and assume the government yourself? Why not? The information the New York Times gave says there's always a power struggle among the top leaders. Their jobs are not that secure. I think they'll rally around me, knowing I'm not going to send anybody to the prison camps. That's not realistic. You'll walk in there and everybody will ignore your orders. All right. I'll destroy all weapons in a corridor from the border to the capital city, and go in with the South Korean army. With the capital city lost, the North Korean leaders will have to give up. But I have to have absolute authority. The North Koreans will never accept South Koreans as their bosses. They hate each other. I'm a neutral third party. It was a sketchy plan. So were the plans of all wars. That might work. I'll inform the president. Yeah, well, remember, I only need the South Koreans. Do you think they'll accept me? I only need the whole country. If it was only a military operation, they wouldn't. You have Hal, and he's a powerful weapon. I think they'll go for it. I'm making an offer they can't refuse. The unification of their country. It would take months to program Hal to seek out and destroy every kind of weapon used by the North Koreans. First, I needed full-scale models of the weapons. They don't have to be exact replicas, I told Colonel Palin at West Point. You can make them out of wood. It's the size and shape that matters. The Army went to work making these models. Colonel Palin provided a warehouse on West Point grounds, where I could go and program Hal. Models of North Korean weapons were set up in the empty West Point building. It turned out full-scale models were not needed for everything, fortunately, or the buildings would have needed to be many acres in size. Airplanes Burp Demon was coming up. Airplanes and artillery pieces could be represented by downscaled models. I had to give Hal the correct dimensions anyways. One weapon needed special attention, the atom bomb. A nuclear expert showed me cutaway models and explained. There are 2 configurations. In this one, you have a solid sphere of nuclear material in the center, surrounded by hollow spheres of conventional explosives. There may be any number of layers of conventional explosive, but they'll all fit together tightly, like a single solid sphere. The other configuration is a projectile that is fired like a bullet at the nuclear fuel. The compression of the fuel gets the fission reaction going. These are the only 2 possible designs for an atom bomb. There is no other way. Can Hal recognize them? I think so. He doesn't feel something on the surface like we do. He feels throughout the thing. He'll see the mechanism. I looked over the entire collection of weapon models. There were hundreds of items. There were so many ways to shoot people. It'll take months to describe these to Hal, I complained to Steve. You can't give up. Forget it. You can't go into North Korea with me. They might take you hostage and get me to do anything they want. If people don't understand that, they can drop dead. Excuse me. It was an ongoing issue. Steve felt embarrassed about staying back in the safety of the South while his wife went among 24 million enemies who wanted her dead. The media would make a lot of it. Finally, everything was ready for the move to liberate the North Koreans. It was time for me to join the army. Oh, is this where the cover comes in? Where she like has like that military attire and everything? It's her getting ready to take over North Korea? Finally, we're getting to that scene. I insisted that I alone had to have full authority when we moved into the North, and it was hard to dispute my demands. North Korea had all the needs of a fairly modern country: food production and distribution, water supply, electric power, heating, transportation systems, hospitals, bureaucracies for every kind of activity, and infrastructure. It took hundreds of thousands of people with years of experience and knowledge of every square inch of the country to perform all the tasks needed. There was no way the South Koreans could handle everything. The North Koreans themselves would have to remain in their jobs as before. This would be politically unacceptable to the South Korean citizens. No politician would dare suggest it. Therefore, I would have to run the country dictatorial, dict, dictatorially. Okay, this isn't on Norman, this is just me. I don't know how to pronounce the word. Sorry. Like a dictator, through the North Korean bureaucracy, I can't speak, for a while with no backseat driving from the South. To make this possible, I had to have next page, some sensitivity to the North Koreans' pride. I couldn't strut around in jeans, or worse than that, a skirt. The North Koreans couldn't be expected to take that seriously. What they did take seriously was military authority. It's all they'd known for generations. It was agreed that I would be commissioned an officer in the United States Army. But before anything was done to alert the public and the North Koreans that I was coming, some of the larger weapons had to be gotten rid of. I brought some of my HAL program map boards to Colonel Palin's office and explained how they worked. Then I got down to business. The first job was to get rid of North Korea's atom bombs. I put an X on the relevant map board and Hal went to work. Inspired by the little floating ball gauges used on old hospital oxygen tanks, Steve had contrived a simple device to monitor Hal's progress. It consisted of nothing but a ping pong ball in a glass tube. Whenever Hal hit upon an example of the weapon he was searching for and destroyed it, he raised the ping pong ball up to the 1 foot level of the 2 foot high glass tube. If he found many weapons in a short time, the ball would stay at the 1 foot level more or less constantly. If hits were infrequent, the ball would have a chance to fall to the bottom. There's an asterisk here, by the way. I don't know if there's like a footnote or what. Maybe if that was a typo, because usually there's something at the bottom, but there's just like an asterisk at the end of that sentence. Okay. 8 minutes went by. The ball rose up in the glass tube for a second. "There's a bomb," I said. "Hal cut it into 100 pieces. He'll search the entire country for bombs." Another 12 minutes went by before Hal found another hit. "It's taking longer than I hoped. We'll get back tomorrow. We have to make sure we get them all, you know." "Absolutely." I assume it's her and the Colonel talking. The next morning, Colonel Palin told us that Hal hadn't hit on a bomb for 6 hours. "That must be all of them," I said. The next job was to get rid of North Korea's rockets and missiles, so they wouldn't be able to attack across the border. For this task also, I would have Hal scan the entire country, not just the corridor from the border to the capital city. When he found a rocket or missile, which all had basically the same shape and therefore were easy to find, he'd slice it in two lengthwise. Repairs were impossible. "Here we go," I said, as I applied an X to the center of the map board. Intelligence services would later say rockets and missiles were being sliced in two all over North Korea. There weren't that many rockets and missiles. The ball rose up a foot and fell down again every half minute or so. It became a boring thing to watch. I have no way of knowing how long it will take, I explained. We'll come back later. We returned after lunch. The colonel said the ball rose up about every 5 minutes. We want to get them all, I said. We'll come back tomorrow. We returned to Colonel Palin's office the next morning. The colonel explained, "The ball hasn't moved for nearly an hour." How is faster than that? There can't be any... Next page. There can't be any rockets and missiles left. Let's go after the jet fighters. They should be easy to find. They'll mostly be close together on airports. I placed an X on another map board. The ping pong balls started jumping up in a half a minute. Airmen in North Korea were dismayed to see their the rear 8 feet of their jet fighters falling off. The engines were nearly cut through, and the tail fins and rudders fell uselessly to the ground. When all of North Korea's rockets, missiles, and jet fighters had been destroyed, the country no longer had the capability of a military strike outside the border. North Korea was left in a defensive situation only. Next task was to go after the lesser weapons. I don't think this will take long, I said. The colonel asked, "Why don't you go after all their weapons at once?" It's one of those peculiarities of mathematics. I couldn't find a way to make Hal do that. There might have been a way if I'd come up with a different control code system for him. I couldn't anticipate everything. After we were satisfied with all the fighters, there's no commas. I just have to guess where it's going to pause. After we were satisfied all the fighters were ruined, the next tasks were to go after artillery pieces, then mortars, then smaller caliber guns mounted on vehicles, then guns on ships, then tanks. It all took a week. North Korea could no longer carry out military maneuvers. All they had left were rifles and handguns. I'd take care of those later. Must be heck for our dear leader's office. Doesn't say heck. Noted. This is Steve talking. Must be heck for our dear leader's office, noted Steve with a grin. What do you do when the enemy is beaten? I give up. You join the army. Next to Arlington National Cemetery was a little-known army post called Fort Myer. This was the Honor Guard company post. The company took care of ceremonial duties around Washington. Here was the old wooden horse-drawn Cajun, C-A-I-S-S-O-N, I don't know my words, used to carry President Kennedy's body to his burial. To the right of the entrance gate was a field where soldiers took the horses for a brisk ride in the morning to burn off their excess energy. To the left of the gate was a row of brick mansions. The chairman of Joint Chief of Staff lived in one of them. Next door lived the Sergeant Major of the Army, the nation's highest-ranking enlisted man. The officers' club was on a curve right off the end of Mansion Row, and a little below that was the uniform shop. We arrived at the mansion of Chairman of Joint Chief of Staff's General Walters. The general and several lesser officers present for the historic occasion greeted us. Handshakes were exchanged, and we got down to the agenda. Papers were signed. A captain asked me to raise my right hand and led me through the commissioned officer's oath. I, Theresa Elizabeth Sullivan Hartley, having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States, as indicated above in the grade of second lieutenant, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign or domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservations or purpose of, next page, evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter, so help me God. The group of officers enthusiastically applauded and cheered, as I expected. I smiled with many emotions at what I was doing. I hugged Steve. General Walters brought out a bottle of 12-year-old scotch and a bucket of ice. Glasses were passed around as Steve and I made small talk with the officers for half an hour. Then it was time to go down to the uniform shop. I was scheduled to go to the White House sometime that afternoon. Okay, that was that. That was a phenomenally okay chapter. Um, I don't know. Again, things are getting kind of plain. It was really short, and that's kind of why I was looking forward to it. I'm only at 20 minutes. I'm only at 20 minutes in my time code. Like, wow, this is super short. The next chapter. Oh no. Oh no. The next one is really long. Uh, that might take me a while. Let's see. It's like 389 to. Excuse me. Sorry, bird demon. 389 to. Oh no. This is like. Oh no. 389 to 418. That's like, oh no, that's almost 40 pages. But yeah, at least Hal's coming across a little bit more concrete. Like they have to draw models of things and have him go attack everything, and I guess they're just trying to disarm all of Korea. Um yeah, I guess this is the beginning, the introduction to the Korean arc. Nice and simple, to the point. Time for scripture of the day. Okay, so there's plenty of scripture that's about courage and standing strong in the face of adversity and all that, because that's probably the closest that I can find to finding a decent theme for this chapter. And I was choosing this one in particular just because of the, well, spoiler alert, the eagle motif, because I don't know, I guess on a corny level, I'm thinking, oh, Teresa's representing the US, which I apologize on behalf of the US for that, but yeah, I'm going to be reading from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. That's from the New King James Version, yet again. I'm thinking I might just go back to consistency. I know I said I'd switch up Bible translations, but I feel like I kind of went through all the good ones. But anyway, I'm not a big fan of the NRSV, NRSVUE, whatever, all that stuff. But anyway, I think this is a beautiful one. This is one that this is a piece of scripture that I've looked back through every now and then to renew our strength. Just the imagery, wings like eagles, and not be faint. It reminds me of marching like lions and whatnot. It's a very strong imagery that goes with it, and I think it's beautiful. And I want everybody to be strong, knowing that the Lord is on your side, as long as you accept Him into your life. And with that, that'll be all. Have a good one, and God bless you.